Chapter 3, Lesson 1. Relate multiplication and division. When we relate something, we're comparing one thing with another thing and seeing how they're the same. So in this case, we're seeing how multiplication and division connect with each other. We're going to use some models and look at some different things. But first I want to focus in on the vocabulary words that are down at the bottom of the page. On the one, it says factor, factor, product. Factor is what we call a number in a multiplication sentence. The numbers that you are multiplying times each other, those are the factors. Call them a factor because they are a fact that makes up that number. Then product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So in this case, we've got a factor times a factor equals a product. That is all multiplication. The other vocabulary words down at the bottom of the page are dividend, divisor, quotient. Dividend is what we call the number that we are dividing into. So it is generally the bigger number in the division problem. The divisor is what we are dividing by. Divisor, dividing by. Dividend comes at one of the ends of division problem. So that's how we can remember dividend. It's coming at the end that's on the left, which is actually our beginning. Dividend divided by the divisor gives us the quotient. Quotient is the answer to a division problem. If you were ever asked for the quotient, you know that you needed to divide. So let's go back and look at example 1. Felix and Mei Ling went to an arcade. They played 4 games that cost $3 each. What was the total cost? Write related multiplication and division sentences to solve. They've arranged a chart for us that's an array, and an array is a shape that includes a certain number going one way, like in columns, and a certain number going another way, like in rows. For those of you that did the Math Blaster at the beginning of the school year, that was dealing with arrays, so now this is going to come in handy for you. In this case, they have set this up with 3 rows and 4 columns because we're multiplying 3 times 4. So that's our multiplication sentence. 3 times 4 equals 12. Now in the division sentence, I'm going to erase some of that so that we can write that in there. It's just backwards of that. We still are using the same numbers, but in a different order. The total number that they had was 12. They had 3 rows, so we'll divide by 3, and 4 columns, so we will have 4. That is how we can write both a multiplication sentence and a division sentence about this problem. On the second page, our other vocabulary word is fact family. Fact family is a set of 4 related multiplication or division sentences that all use the same 3 numbers. So let's look at example 2 to see what they're talking about. Latanya and her father made an array of buttons. Write a fact family for the array. So we can see that there are 3 buttons on this side, and there are 4 buttons going across this side. So one of our problems we know for sure could be 3 times 4, and 3 times 4 if we went and we counted them all up, or if we just knew our math fact, 3 times 4 equals 12. Now, in the fact family, and in what we learned about multiplication, we can switch the order of 2 numbers and still get the same answer. So we can also have 4 times 3 equals 12. Now for the division, again, we're going to use those same 3 digits, 3, 4, and 12. So for the division, the first number in the division is going to be the same as the answer to our multiplication. We're always going to start with what was the end there is the beginning here. Then we just need to use the other numbers. 12 divided by 3 equals equals 4. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. Easy enough. We'll have 2 multiplication problems and 2 division problems in most fact families. Example 3. Vanessa has 36 books to put on 4 shelves. The same number of books will be placed on each shelf. How many books will be on each shelf? So we need to find 36 divided by 4. You can use a related multiplication fact to help you divide. We can use our fact family here to help us do the division problem. So if we know that 36 divided by 4 is what we're looking for and we'll find the unknown, then we just need to think of it the opposite way. 4 times that unknown is going to give us 36. And if we know our fact families, we would know that 4 times 9 equals 36. So 36 divided by 4 is going to equal 9. Vanessa would place 9 books on each shelf. Number 1, write a fact family for each array. I just need to start out by counting how many rows there are. 1, 2, 3. So I know I'm going to have a 3. And how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to have 3 times 7. 3 times 7 equals 21. For the other multiplication sentence, I just need to flip them around and have 7 times 3 equals 21. Now for both of my division, I'm going to start with what I ended with in the multiplication. So I'm going to put 21 down for both my division. And then I just have to use those other 2 digits from the multiplication. 21 divided by 3 equals 7, and divided by 7 equals 3. That's my fact family. Number 2, there are only 2 lines, and we're going to quickly see why. Let's start by counting the rows. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many columns? 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 times 5. Now, I could switch those around and it's still going to be 5 times 5. So do I really need to write it down a second time? No, I can just write it the one time. 5 times 5 equals 25. The same thing will happen with the division. 25 divided by 5 equals 5. I don't need to write it a second time because it is an identical problem. Those are the only times that you only have 2 in your fact families, is if the number of columns and rows are identical, if you've got doubles. Now, you can go ahead if you have your math book and practice some more on the independent practice. Otherwise, get to your homework and show what you know.